Leprechaun, Back to the Hood. A movie so bad, they felt the need to misspell the word the most used word in the English language. You would have thought after one Hood movie, the filmmakers would have just moved on. But no, apparently the first movie was just successful enough to warrant a direct sequel. Actually, the only thing it shares with the previous film is that it takes place in the Hood. There's no real plot in this one, no purpose for the Leprechaun to be here, and unlike the last film, I could care less if any of these guys die. It's a Leprechaun movie, so it's just not fair to expect any sort of character development at this point, but given how the last one at least tried, that was sort of a letdown. Essentially, this is just a random group of friends with no real ambitions, just accidentally stumbling into the Leprechaun's gold. You've got the no-good rich kid, the pothead, the girl trying to leave town to better herself, and the main character, I guess, a woman named Emily, who's the blandest one of all. It's kind of like watching a really bad soap opera. The movie starts with a bit of promise, as we get this kind of cool animated sequence giving us a little more detail about the leprechaun, how the leprechauns were invented to protect the king's wealth, and when he passed away, all but one leprechaun returned home. Guess who the one leprechaun was? To sum this movie up, the first half plays out more or less like a comedy, and by comedy, it's mostly just pot jokes. It tries its hand at some drama when one of the characters gets into it with a street gang, but it never explains what this gang wants and what their beef is with the guy. I guess he's cutting in on their territory. I know they're not happy that he apparently has money, even though the only sign of wealth he has is this little crotch rocket he drives around town. It's a side story that has no business in this film, and as you'd expect, there's no payoff. Just an excuse to have more bodies for Wicket the Ewok to kill. There's a fortune teller lady who warns Emily about the gold, flat out telling her that once she finds it, to just leave it alone. Does she listen? Of course not. Why do you think we had so many damn sequels? She spreads the wealth with her friends, and we get one of the most boring montages I've ever seen. She tells her friend Lisa to buy a new car, and in the next scene, she pulls up with this rickety piece of junk that the filmmakers probably rented from the local junkyard. Then it shows one of them getting a massage. Seriously, they just found $1 million and this is what they spend it on? I bet the $1 million is more than what they actually had to make this movie. Oh, and the pothead of course buys nothing but bongs. Ha ha, clever. No, not really. Warwick Davis shows up about a half hour in to claim me gold!
I mean, this ain't gonna stunt your growth or anything, is it?
Of course, the first thing he does is take a hit off the bong and walks around stoned. It's funny for a few minutes, but then you get the impression that maybe Warwick Davis really was stoned while filming these scenes. To Warwick's credit, it really felt like he just didn't want to be in this movie. They hardly gave him any lines of dialogue, and when he speaks, it's a little more serious. At one point he breaks character, and you almost hear him speaking in his normal voice.
How tall am I? Well, about 3'6".
3'6".
Yeah, but I make up for it in other areas, if you know what I mean.
He has some funny moments, but not as many as you'd think. Actually, the second half of the movie plays out like a straight-out slasher film. There's not a lot of fun special effects or magic tricks that he pulls out. Most of the time he just rips off someone's limb and moves on to the next victim. It also looks like he's wearing black in this film. It was as if they tried to make him a little more sinister by getting rid of his rhymes and giving him less to say, and for some parts it works, until we get scenes like this. What is this, Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Just a flesh wound.
To the film's credit, at the half-hour point, I thought this was really going to suck. I wasn't expecting much to begin with, but as much fun as I had with that last film, I was really disappointed. It was getting near Leprechaun 4 quality, and I don't know how many more of those kinds of films I can take. The movie does pick up around the halfway point. The deaths are all generic, but they work. Again, they're sticking with the four-leaf clover as the Leprechaun's main weakness. This time, they insert pieces of the clover into bullets.
Damn clover!
A neat idea, but they shoot him like 12 times and it doesn't seem to do anything. This was the last movie in the series, and how do they finally kill him off? They drop him into cement. Seen it, moving on. I don't know if I liked this one. It got more entertaining as it went on, but it's kind of blah, and ultimately, it's forgettable. None of these movies are really good, but they did get me to laugh a few times. I don't know if they're the right kind of movies for Halloween, because at their worst, they're unintentionally weird or flat out stupid, and at their best, they'll give you a chuckle here and there. Avoid 4 like the plague, check out the first one, and after that, pick your poison. At the time I'm doing this review, I'm aware that they're getting ready to release Leprechaun Origins, the inevitable remake starring Hornswoggle as the title character. The way most remakes go, it'll probably be a much darker movie, and the new design for the character will probably have no resemblance to the one we know now. If I have time, I might check it out and give you my impressions, but for now, I think I'm all leprechauned out. Well, hope you enjoyed this year's 31 Days of Slashers direct-to-video-a-thon. We saw a lot of crap, but hey, I figured someone had to do it. If any of them caught your eye, go out there and check them out. Most of these movies are fairly short, and I'm sure you can find a ton of them on Netflix. Like I said in my very first review for Puppet Master, these were originally alternatives to the big theatrical blockbuster, so who knows? You might find some redeemable aspects. One more thing. I'm aware that this is October 30th. Tune in tomorrow and we'll wrap up 31 Days of Slashers with our grand finale.